Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Check out the Offtopia Podcast where we discuss art, music, and writing. The show is available on all major platforms, and consider joining our Discord and meeting our community. Offtopia. Can't stop, won't stop.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. Now, we have 4 brand new films to review, so let's get right into it, starting with the Toy Story spinoff, Lightyear, the Netflix original movie starring Chris Hemsworth, Spiderhead, and now in selected theaters and streaming exclusively on Shudder, Mad God, and finally, the remake of a remake, the HBO Max exclusive, Father of the Bride. Ready to hear my verdict? Let's get into it.
Throughout history, you can see every time there's been social advancement as we wake up. I mean, the American story, the human story is one of constant social awakening and growth. And that's what makes us good. And you know, when that happens, there's always going to be people who are afraid and unaware and trying to hold on to what was before. But those people die off like dinosaurs. And so, you know, I think the goal is to pay them no mind, march forward, and embrace the growth that makes us human.
I would say to those people, just like with Buzz, like, you know, refurbish your idea of tradition. You know, understand that it's to infinity and beyond. It's time to move forward. It's time to accept and look and you know, enjoy all the faces that have always been there. You know what I mean? They've always been a part of the picture. You just try to like paint them out. So that's also what this is about. It's about this is what it looks like. This is what it's always been, and yeah, to infinity and beyond.
Yes.
Hello, Buzz. I am Socks, your personal companion robot.
We're being pursued by just a massive robot.
That was utterly terrifying, and I regret having joined you. Buzz!
Lightyear!
Let all the children begin.
I can provide sleep sounds if you like. I have several options. Summer night, ocean paradise, whale calls.
No. White noise is fine.
Very well.
Good night, Socks.
Good night, Buzz.
All right, so in the time of this review, Lightyear has already been out for 1 full weekend, and the box office results are probably not the result Disney was hoping for. Faced already with challenges from not being shown in over 14 countries due to the same-sex kissing scene, Disney has already met these challenges before with their other films that were banned because of the LGBTQ content, with films such as Beauty and the Beast, the live-action remake, The Eternals, Onward, West Side Story, and more recently, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Disney is sticking to their guns when it comes to their creative ideas of films. Everybody has their opinion on Disney. Let me get this straight. And I tend to give them more crucial and critical pushback with some of their sloppy originals that I've stated on the show more often than not, more specifically isn't because of the subject matter, but because of the obvious sloppiness of the filmmaking that makes the film seem like a quick cash grab. Here I will give them credit, especially for sticking to their creative guns. Many have judged these movies before they even give it a chance, and there's no argument that the subject matter has led to some weaker numbers in some of their films. The comment we see most often is, why are they pushing this on our kids? Again, these comments are a majority of people that have just read headlines or comments on social media and haven't even seen the movie. If we look at the movies that I just listed off after seeing it, does it really feel like it's shoving and pushing it on our kids? The answer is no. Disney, for the most part, if you don't include some of their obvious attempts at cash grabs, has tried to put something in their movies for everybody to enjoy. Inclusion in cinema is truly what makes one of the most important cultural art forms, and to attempt to censor it is absolute shame and disgrace, especially when it involves a fantasy where kids can use their imaginations to transport themselves into this world or even pretend to be in this world. From Disney princesses to princes to wizards to pirates to talking animals that don't even always wear pants to the music that we have all grown up with, grown to have our go-to Disney song. Inclusion is a must in cinema to open up the imagination of our kids and even adults. I welcome what Disney is doing, and I even give them a standing ovation when it comes down to it. I remember my first job was working at a movie theater, and it was 1999. A film called The Cider House Rules came out, and it starred Tobey Maguire and Michael Caine. I remember going into work on opening day to be met with protesters trying to detour the moviegoers from seeing this film. The first weekend that the film was at my theater was met with empty seats and a sidewalk full of protesters, but get this, Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo came out with filled seats at the same time. That includes kids alongside with their parents with this movie, and also included some of the protesters I recognized from the weekend. I know that was a different time, but that wasn't that long ago if you think about it. That Sunday, I got my ticket to watch The Cider House Rules, and I believe it was the fourth ticket all weekend to be purchased. I remember walking out of the film and finding it an absolutely incredible film. Then I began to wonder, in our culture, we are okay with comedy about a male prostitute and laughing about women with disabilities, but we are protesting a film like The Cider House Rules. If they made The Cider House Rules a comedy, would that have made it better or morally just? Film cinema censorship is a very big hot button to me. Just as censoring books, censoring music, there are some movies I come out of and say, whoa, that wasn't my cup of tea, or even books I put down halfway after reading through, or even music I attempted to listen to, and I hit the skip button. You might not agree or like what the filmmakers are showing, but like any vision from a creator, it's their vision. You don't have to like it, but it's important that you try it before you create an opinion. Encouraging censorship and not acknowledging the fact that everybody is not like you keeps truly great films from being made because the filmmakers have to question it. The comments that we hear, stop pushing our kids, let me be clear. These movies do not push propaganda towards your kids. These are creative movies that include kids' imaginations and ask the audience to go on a journey with them. Maybe to push toy sales here and there, but that's about it. I would hope, as I think in Disney's defense, that this is the way to include kids and adults alike into their world. Lightyear has had a rough start given a $200 million budget, with only pulling in $50 million this last weekend. But let me be clear. So yes, there is a same-sex couple in the film, but I'll let you in on a little secret. To those that think it's pure propaganda, watching Buzz Lightyear will not make you homosexual. And the scene that they're referring to is a quite beautiful one, about love and inclusion and acceptance of family. Those that are encouraging this disgraceful behavior before even seeing the film, you're not encouraging people to boycott the movie. You're helping to encourage censorship and hesitation from future studios and creators to create something in the future that truly could be great. So, stop it. With that said, did Lightyear deserve my commentary in the beginning as a great film? That wasn't about the quality of the film, it was about the topic coming up more and more, especially in Disney films. In the beginning of Lightyear, the opening monologue suggests that Buzz Lightyear, the toy, came from a popular movie that made the action figure so popular. This starts the movie with already high standards to watch, into which the movie has to appease not only Toy Story fans, but even more so make the movie good to understand why kids would go crazy over the Buzz Lightyear toy. And this one, again, is set up for Disney to sell a crap ton of toys, I'm sure. The movie follows Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger, who him and his team get stranded on a planet and have to find a fuel source to get home. Meanwhile, facing mighty Emperor Zurg and his army of robots. Lightyear stars Chris Evans taking over for Tim Allen for the voice of Buzz, which was a little baffling to me and made no sense in the original announcement of the film. But after seeing what the filmmakers are trying to do, which is make a movie and a character that the Toy Story action figure was based on. It works. Tim Allen adds more of an animated version of the Toy Story franchise, while Chris Evans adds more of a serious adult version. And the vocals are not way off. This casting pick, not everybody is going to agree with, but to me, it complements a Toy Story's film quite nicely. It would have been great to hear Tim Allen's voice again with Buzz, but after seeing the final result, I was pleasantly surprised. The film was directed and written by Angus MacLean, who spent a majority of his career in the animation department for Disney and Pixar, and more recently co-directed Finding Dory. As a professional animator at the helm, MacLean knows the challenges with a film like this. He has to separate the visual looks between Toy Story and Lightyear to make the audience feel they're watching a movie within a movie. MacLean is successful in this. Watching Buzz Lightyear on screen, at times I forgot I was watching the Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. And then one of Buzz's lines from Toy Story gets spoken, and it's a little nudge to the audience to remind us who is on screen. It's a great balance that the filmmakers succeed with. The animation, of course, is a lot grittier and darker than we get with Toy Story, as it should be. It's a darker storyline and overall a darker movie, but the characters' liveliness get the movie energetic. This is mostly due to Keke Palmer, who plays Izzy Hawthorne in Chris Evans' version of Buzz. Their chemistry feels natural and curious, and they both have a shared motivation of drive that feels natural and never forced. When it comes to the supporting characters, this was a toss-up for me. Some of the supporting characters reminded me of a recycled character pieces from the Disney's Atlantis, The Lost Empire. They seem too predictable as who they are and what they're going to do to support Buzz in the final act, just based on their introductions. The film has great pacing to keep adults entertained, but the second and third act tend to drag just a little and may bore some kids. I think MacLean knew this and needed to ensure a good comic relief character, which is why he introduces Socks, an animatronic cat that acts as Buzz's sidekick, and sad to say he has more heart than the supporting characters. Socks is voiced by Peter Sohn, who directed the mediocre production nightmare of Pixar's The Good Dinosaur. I have a feeling that this character might sell more toys than the Buzz Lightyear action figure. When we get to the final act, there is enough here to gain attention of kids and adults alike, but feels a little safe and tame in the climax. Does the film give you the same feels as Toy Story? No. Can you see why the toy was popular with kids in the Toy Story movie based on this? No. Does it make you want to run out and buy the new Buzz Lightyear action figure? No. Did the film need to be made? No. But the film does stand on its own. The film has heart, likable main character, and a decent feel-good message. It looks great and has a good balance of standing on its own while giving just enough to the audience to remind us of Toy Story. It's more memorable than it should be, and it's a respectable addition to the Disney Pixar film. I'm giving Lightyear 3 stars. And now we are bringing back our infamous guest critic, Brooklyn, who will give us the kids' perspective of Lightyear. Brooklyn, welcome back to the show.
Hello, people. I'm back.
You are. And I'm curious, because again, we haven't talked about this movie. We never talk about our movies. We always save it for the podcast if it's a family movie. I am dying to know what you thought of Lightyear.
Whoa. I thought it was pretty cheesy, but not at the same time. You know those like clay movies you see all the time?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but it's more like easy to look at and pay attention to. Like clay movies are kind of boring, if you know what I mean.
So are you saying it's more adult? Is that kind of what you're going for?
No. It's like those kids, like, you know that show that's made out of clay or Play-Doh or whatever?
Yeah, like Gumby.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's kind of like that, but it kind of looks like clay, but it kind of doesn't. It's kind of weird. So it reminds me of that, but Buzz kind of looks more like his character in Toy Story or whatever. It looks like a toy, but mixed with, let's say, the Beauty and the Beast, Belle, whatever. Let's just say that.
Okay, so they made him more realistic.
Yes, but Socks is kind of special looking.
See, Socks is one of my favorite pieces of the movie.
Yeah.
So you like Socks.
Yes, I love Socks. He's so cute.
And what I liked about Socks is he's not just an animatronic robot. They actually gave him a good personality where he actually supports Buzz.
But you know that Marvel cat, like Captain Marvel cat?
Yeah.
It looks just like that, but a little robot and big eyes.
Are you saying you want an orange cat now?
Yeah.
No. Nice try. So, compared to Toy Story, do you think this was a great addition to the Toy Story franchise?
It didn't remind me at all about Toy Story. Not at all.
Yeah, and I think you can take that as a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said in my review, it felt like I was watching an individual movie, and then they would bring up a couple lines here and there to remind you of Toy Story.
But I bet you they're going to do like every character their own movie. But also, it literally, if you love Toy Story, you're not going to like this movie that much. Because it does not remind you of Toy Story, and it will never.
Okay. So I'm curious now.
Okay.
What would be your rating on Lightyear?
Oh. Okay, I'd give it like a 2.5.
Okay. I gave it 3. You gave it 2.5.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that's because it's more targeted for adults?
It's in the middle. How about that?
Okay. Do you think kids will enjoy this film?
If you're a little kid, no. If you're like my age, like 10 or 11 or 9, yes, probably.
Okay, I'll take that. So we're not too far off. I mean, my review, I was bouncing between a 2.5 to a 3, but after thinking about it, I think it's a solid 3 movie just based on the originality.
But also, like, if you're a little kid, you'll probably get scared because there's like stuff in it like that little kids would get scared of, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think for what it is, it's not as scary as what a lot of the films are. I mean, the film is a lot darker than the Toy Story films. But it's still, I think, age appropriate.
Yeah.
For most kids. I think what's going to hold this film back from a lot of kids liking it is I think the middle was a little bit slow.
Yeah.
For
Very.
kids. Would you agree?
Yeah. It's kind of like West Story. It's like slowish and kind of. And it's kind of like dark at the same time. It's kind of like it, but cartoon and weird. And yeah.
Brooklyn, I think that was a fantastic review. Yet again, you bring professionalism
Yep. That sounds
to
about
our
right.
show.
That sounds about right.
So, Brooklyn.
I'm perfect. I'm joking.
Oh, my.
I'm joking.
To me, you are.
That's kind of weird, you know.
So, Brooklyn, I want to thank you for being on the show. Again, It's been a pleasure. Your ego is undeniably huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how about time for bed?
No.
Go brush your teeth.
You go brush your teeth.
You go brush your teeth. It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today.
Hello again.
Sorry I'm late, Mr. Abnesti.
Not late at all. That's Spiderhead. We're proud of our work.
Your presence in this facility, while technically a punishment, is a privilege.
Where have you been?
Drug study. In science, we have to explore the unknown.
They've been testing me up and down. A lot weirder stuff than usual.
This is new frontier stuff here.
Before we begin, I need your permission to administer Pen 40.
This place can really mess with your head.
Drip on. Acknowledge. Drip on.
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, acknowledge.
Let's do this. Are we getting this?
This doesn't feel right.
Time to worry about crossing lines was a lot of lines ago.
will save lives. Not just one life, many lives. We're making the world a better place. What you want is redemption. And this is how you're gonna find it.
We're selling peace and harmony itself.
Beautiful people get away with too much, and I say that having benefited myself from time to time.
The new Netflix original movie Spiderhead. Spiderhead is set in the near future when convicts are offered a chance to volunteer as medical subjects in hopes of shortening their sentences. When our prisoner finds himself the test patient for a new pharmaceutical capable of generating feelings of love, he begins questioning the reality of his emotions and sets out to discover the truth. The new Netflix original, Spiderhead. Spiderhead is set in the near future when convicts are offered the chance to volunteer as medical subjects in hopes of shortening their sentences. When our prisoner finds himself the test patient for a new pharmaceutical capable of generating feelings of love, he begins questioning the reality of his emotion and sets out to discover the truth. The film stars Chris Hemsworth as Amnesty and Miles Teller as Jeff, a volunteer patient. The film is based on a short story called Escape from Spiderhead by George Saunders and adapted by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. They both wrote the Deadpool movie Zombieland and is slated now to write the Clue remake. It is directed by Joseph Kosinski, who directed the recent amazing Top Gun Maverick. The film has great writers and an up-and-coming director and a good cast, which makes this review so hard to write given the review I just gave to Top Gun Maverick. The style of Spiderhead kept my curiosity for the first half of the film, and it gave me curiosity whether filmmakers were going to take the characters. The first half of the film really hits the mark when it comes to getting to know the characters and allowing us to really like the characters we're watching. Chris Hemsworth does a fantastic job as an evil scientist that the filmmakers seem to build this character that we know we're going to love to hate. And Miles Teller's youthful innocence, how he interacts with Hemsworth's character, is some pretty good chemistry, and it's interesting to watch. The film has a feel of a crescendoing into something special with an interesting premise. The film does a great job at building and making promises to the audience of a very creative climax. But, unfortunately, when the third act hits, it feels like a completely different movie. The pacing feels off, the characters feel forced. It's like being a passenger in a car driving 25 miles an hour and it suddenly hits the brakes and then gives you a split second and then the driver hits the gas to 100 miles an hour. The film just takes off to an unnatural feel and an unnatural pacing, almost like the filmmakers turned on a light switch and shook the writers awake. By the final act, there is an entertaining music montage with the inmates that I really enjoyed, but it feels out of place compared to the first half of the movie. The film had a good premise, and given the writers to the material, I wish they would have stuck to their strength, such as the Deadpool and the Zombieland. During the second half of the film, you can see Reese and Wernick's fun style of writing, but you can tell they had trouble transitioning between the second and third acts from serious to kind of almost goofy action, and even a goofy conclusion. This makes the film feel frustrating due to the fact the first half is great when it comes to on-screen chemistry building, and the film feels like it should have had a serious climatic ending, but it ends up being almost popcorn entertainment. I wish I could review the first half and the second half as two separate films because those would actually get a good rating, but combined, the film misses the mark completely. By the end of the film, it's apparent they didn't know what kind of movie they wanted to make, and the ending result is just mediocre average. It's always a disappointment when you see some fantastic, talented filmmakers and a talented director that you just saw some good stuff come from them, and you add a likable, talented cast, and then this is what you end up with. I'm sure on paper this movie looked fantastic, and the filmmakers behind it was great, but this is a stereotypical straight-to-streaming, almost straight-to-video, if you were, movie. I'm giving Spiderhead 2 stars.
Fathers play a big role in their daughter's life. It's a special bond that only they share.
Hello!
And even when she's all grown up, she's still Daddy's little girl.
Dad?
I have something to say.
I'm engaged!
And
I propose.
Wow. You proposed? Hold on. You proposed?
yes.
You proposed to him. He didn't propose to you. Can you do that? Does anyone do that?
You both have been coming here for over a year. Do you still want this marriage to work or not?
I'm here.
No. We're supposed to play the perfect family until Sophie gets married.
Or we could say, sorry to spoil your happiness, but we're getting a divorce. Mazel tov.
Mommy, Papi, this is Alain Castillo. We don't want some big fancy wedding, and we want to pay for it.
2 lawyers out of college working for a nonprofit are going to pay for the wedding.
Billy!
I'm the father of the bride, and I will be paying for the wedding, and I'm going to be walking my daughter down the aisle.
The wedding planner's here in 20 minutes.
Wedding planner?
Left Amelia!
So what are we thinking about theme?
Theme?
We don't want a Catholic wedding.
What are you talking about?
Who's gonna officiate then?
My guide, Monica, from the Zen Center, New York.
So a yoga class instead of a wedding.
Hey, caramba. This is my father.
For the wedding.
Oh my God. How rich is this guy? Gonna have some champagne and come aboard.
What is he, a Bond villain? We should go over the ground rules. Can we hold hands?
We can,
Can we dance?
if necessary.
How about a kiss?
Absolutely not.
Daddy, what is the budget that we're working with?
How about that?
Yes.
I really like him.
He's nothing like us.
Maybe that's the point.
You don't watch sports.
No,
You play sports.
I like hiking.
Things have been coming at me very fast. It's time for me to embrace the future. I got your back.
Showtime, baby.
Can we dance?
Papi.
Ready?
Yes, and you?
No.
Father of the Bride originally came out in 1950, starring Spencer Tracy, who was nominated for an Oscar for Best Leading Actor, and the film was also nominated for Best Picture. Then came 1992, where the remake starring Steve Martin along with a sequel in 1995, and now comes Father of the Bride 2022, an HBO Max remake starring Andy Garcia and the always lovely Gloria Estefan. All 3 of these variations of this movie are worlds apart when it comes down to their style, writing, and acting. The 1950 original is by far the best in the 3, but the 1992 film starring Steve Martin knew what kind of movie it wanted to be. It knew it couldn't come close to the Oscar-worthy, but rather decided to go into the fluff piece of entertainment. That film has its issues, that is the 1992 version, but at the end of the day, it's wildly entertaining due to Steve Martin's humor and Martin Short's overacted and energetic character, Frank. It was a cheesy piece of entertainment, but god damn was it a feel-good fun time at the movies. Now comes the HBO Max remake in 2022. I recently reviewed the trailer in one of my earlier shows describing Andy Garcia as a grumpy, emotionless, and almost like somebody that was holding a gun to his head to make this movie. And that was just the trailer. My thought is that if they are taking the best parts of Garcia and putting it in a promotional trailer, I couldn't imagine the rest of the movie. Father of the Bride takes the same premise as the previous 2 films, where the father has to come to grips with his daughter's upcoming wedding of a groom they barely know, and to ensure that his daughter is happy at any cost. That was the plot of the original too. The film this version adds a more complex character for what would be the Banks character, but is now renamed Billy Herrera, where Billy is stuck in his own selfish success and has to balance his own pride and his daughter's happiness. The film tries to be something different from the previous 2 films and almost feels too forced. It's like being the water boy and trying to squeeze in between a football huddle to be relevant. Garcia desperately tries to be the Spencer Tracy character while all the other characters try to do the 1992 version. The actors and actresses are confused which movie they're doing and tend to get lost in the comedic situations that ruin the comedic timing and the heart of the film. While I respect Andy Garcia as an actor, this role was not for him. Garcia is way out of his element in this one. The perfect actor for this would have been Eugenio Debbez from The Valet and the Overboard remake. He has a likable quality that would have elevated this film. My predictions were correct from watching the trailer. Garcia just doesn't seem like he wants to be in this film. What made the original so much fun was the sense of fun, stressful chaos, and that happens throughout the film. The movie adds a lot more characters to the mix and a lot more potential for some truly funny moments, but it never lifts off, and that's due to both the writing and the characters. The film was written by Matt Lopez, who is completely out of his element in this film as well. Lopez has a slim list of credits on his resume, which includes 2008's Bedtime Stories, 2009's Race to Witch Mountain, and 2010's Sorcerer's Apprentice. He went on like a 2-year roll with movies. The written material just isn't funny in this version of Father of the Bride, and the delivery just feels like it's a table read of the script. The two shining performances of this film is Diego Boneta, who plays Adan Castillo, the groom-to-be. Even though his dialogue isn't the greatest, his screen presence is. He does the most with it what he has. The same goes with Aiden's father, Hernan Castillo, played by Pedro Damian. These two carry the movie whenever they are on screen and are the most entertaining pieces of the film. Now, when it comes to one of my favorite characters in the previous films, the wedding planner, previously played by Martin Short, is now played by Chloe Fineman, who plays Natalie Vance, who again is a victim of poor writing in this film, and also horrible casting. We look at Martin Short in the 1992 version, and he is over the top in that version, but what he does have is good comedic timing, and he knows his style and when to pull it back. Chloe Fineman comes across as absolutely, utterly annoying in this film, and she doesn't know what to do with the already useless material. She's not skilled enough at this point in her acting career to know how to deal with horrible writing. And again, this is due to bad casting and bad writing. But the character in this film is written like she is stupid, like she is an annoying teenager that always have her phones, that she's always on social media. At least with the 1992 version with Martin Short, they made him a lovable character. And again, he could be a little overpowering, but by the end of the movie, you appreciated his character. So I'll give it a break from beating it up a little bit. The film does have its memorable moments when it comes to the ensemble together. It has some touching moments, and I can respect that it attempts to give the audience something a little different than the previous films. But unfortunately, it doesn't know how or where to start. The film has great touching moments, especially with Garcia and Esteban on screen together. It feels real when they're together, like an old, bitter married couple that's just sick of each other. But by the time the film is over, just like showing up at a wedding you don't want to go to, you make an appearance, drink some booze, make sure the bride and groom see you, and you take off to a local bar where you can actually have some fun. And lastly, how can you have a wedding movie with Gloria Estefan and not play conga? That was the disappointing piece for me. I'm giving Father of the Bride 2 stars.
I wanted to make a Joseph Cornell movie, the surrealist artist from the 30s and the 40s that made these beautiful boxes that had, all kinds of leaves and twigs and newspaper clippings, and they're really beautiful. Those were the key inspirations, for it. That was kind of these visions that were in the back of my head that, inspired me. I'm an obsessive, hoarder of stuff, so during this 20-year period, I just pick up a lot of junk or something that I'll see in a gift shop or, anywhere. Really helped me, and I included some of those in Mad God. Well, what I'm hoping the audience will be able to do is, it could be anything. I'm ready for anything, really, and it's going to be personal. I kind of envision this thing as, in totality, like throwing a pot, and then the viewers can, just pick from the pot what they want. I don't care. It's and many artists and writers work that way, is they want to create, or by default, you will create a mysterious object that hopefully has some kind of logic. And over the years, I'm a very prolific dreamer. Before Mad God, I would write down in my notebook. And I have tons of notebooks, and some of the dreams are like 8 or 10 pages long in a book like that. And what I wanted to do was, once I build up a body of these dreams, to look at them and see if there was any connective tissue between them. And for a very substantial part of them, maybe like 50%, maybe more. Actually, it came down to it. It was like everything. Well, number one would be Paul Verhoeven, because we had a very similar kind of a worldview, philosophically and politically. And Paul was actually a really terrific mentor, from working with him and just being, and that's where I was so lucky, because I would work with all these terrific directors, and it was like going to school, film school, which I never went to because I couldn't afford it. So that's just kind of the way it worked.
Visual effects extraordinaire Phil Tippett brings you his new films 30 Years in the Making. Tippett, who is well known for his fantastic, amazing, legendary work in films such as Jurassic Park, RoboCop, Willow, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Starship Troopers, and so many more extraordinary films. He has landed 2 Academy Awards with 6 nominations, and now he directs a film that took him more than 30 years to make. Tippett started working on Mad God in the late 80s after working on RoboCop 2. After Jurassic Park landed and Spielberg decided to step away from using the stop-motion animation to the newest format of CGI, Tippett almost considered abandoning the Mad God project. Mad God is completely shot with stop motion, with a human actor thrown in the mix here and there, and for the most part has no dialogue in it. The film is about a corroded diving bell that descends amidst a ruined city, and the assassin emerges from the bell to explore the labyrinth of a bizarre landscapes inhabited by things that you will only see in your nightmares. Now, the film doesn't necessarily have a clear plot. We take our main character, the assassin, as he explores the different landscapes or worlds, if you will. This film, as I have said many times before, will not be everyone's cup of tea. This is best to be seen on a big screen with a great audio system in darkness. The visuals are breathtaking, shocking, and not for the faint of heart. The film is straight out of every morbid nightmare I have ever woken up to in my lifetime. The visuals on screen are grotesque, dirty, gritty, and sometimes hard to watch, but you can't take your eyes off the screen. Tippett does a fantastic job knowing without spoken word to give the audience something they haven't seen before. You can tell Tippett's love of visual spectacles of stop-motion animation in this film, in which I could see why he got discouraged when Jurassic Park came out. The amount of detail in every single frame is stunning, realistic, and uses stop motion to its advantage of creating this nightmarish world where it makes the audience just feel dirty, and by the time you walk out of the theater into the sunlight, you appreciate your life just a little bit more based on what you just viewed. Now, I'm going to be a little selfish and say, and I do wish, another piece of me does wish this could have a little bit of more story to correspond with the visuals that I see, or a little bit more dialogue to go along with the incredible visuals. But that's just me. It doesn't take away from the film, but I will give this thing credit. The scariest thing on what a filmmaker can do is give the audience a chance to use their imaginations. And that's what Tippett does for the entire 85 minutes of runtime. This is a film that achieves not only some of the best technical stop-motion shots I have ever seen, but some of the best editing and lighting in stop motion in a film that I've ever seen. This film is as abstract and obscure that you will find in any motion picture today, and it's a very important film to view, especially if you study film. Given its content, I doubt the Academy will ever consider this for a nomination for visual effects, which is an absolute shame. I think it's time moviegoers see this and be vocal about not necessarily the content it shows, but how it shows it. An award is supposed to be an achievement in a specific category, and there will be nothing more visually stunning that you will see this year. Mad God, again, will not be for everybody, but Phil Tippett invites you to be his looking glass into his nightmare to view while you're awake. This is the Fantasia for horror fans. This film is absolutely stunning, and I want to say beautiful, but I can't because the film looks gross, but its intentions are to be gross and hellish and nightmarish. This film is a must-see. I'm giving Mad God 3.5 stars. Alrighty, that is a cut on this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you haven't yet, make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show. Pop me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I will be back next week with a few new reviews, and that includes the horror thriller The Black Phone and the biopic Elvis. Don't forget to stay till after the credits just to support the filmmakers and creators that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film. Until next week, make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.